Scriptural testimony and physical evidence of a recent creation. Study I did many years ago. Really, it's just a work of research, and I found some good resources. Period of a worldwide flood. Recent creation, worldwide flood. We'll do that. Catastrophic. Complete revamping of the Earth's surface. Short period of time, not billions or millions of years. Physical evidence of a worldwide flood. Point 4, unprecedented sedimentary activity points to a worldwide flood. This sounds like, this is boring. This is geology and stuff. But to me it was fascinating because I never understood. You look at a stream and how did these rocks and sediment, the size of the stream and so on get there? Many, 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 many years seems to be in play here because people keep telling you, well, everything is kind of going along and nothing changes all that much. Once in a while you have a local flood, but pretty much things stay the same. Changes are so minute, and then they change back. Who knows? Well, we've looked at a number of these points. Let's see if we go on down to point 5. I don't think so. Okay, let's look at the next point we established. ADOLF. SCILACHER. I misspelled that. I wasn't high enough up. There he is, ADOLF SCILACHER from Germany. And he wrote in the Journal of Geology a number of years ago, but it's very, very applicable today because things haven't changed in the sense that changes have come fast, not slowly. And this is what this German geologist had to say. This is what we know. Well, this is what we know. Though it's not taught in very many undergraduate courses. So why would he go into this? Let's see. Maybe he had a pang of conscience. Beds happen rapidly. Wow. Well, he's a very, very well-known geologist in his day. Yeah, he's writing this. It's not in the books. The books that the undergraduate geology students used. Beds happen rapidly when we stream beds, river beds, when we realize the sediment transport principle. We know that a new bedding plane is formed if the current of sediment-bearing water, changes direction. If the water changes temperature, if it changes velocity, what can be caused by the texture of the bottom, by the rate of drop, and so on. There are about 17 factors that have to remain absolutely constant in order to have one homogeneous bed formed. And if you change any of it, and you've got a new bedding plane. So, how long can you maintain all of these factors perfectly uniform? Seconds, maybe minutes. And that's what we see illustrated in the fossil record. Rapid formation of the rocks, which is obvious to people that will look and will think. Understanding that, one of the more famous evolutionists in the world, Gould of Harvard, made a very interesting statement about the rocks and their formation. And he goes on to say, beginning with the word Catastrophists, of which he claims not to be one. Catastrophists, who were the creationists, he said, were as committed to science as any graduate. So he says the word catastrophists, and of course these are the ones that oppose the uniformitarians, which were the evolutionists, and talking about the situation, of course, years ago. So he says catastrophists, who were the creationists, he said, were as committed to science as any graduate. Well, that's pretty honest. In fact, they adopted the more objective, that one should believe what one sees and not interpolate missing bits of gradual record into a literal tale of rapid change. Wow. Stephen Gould, Harvard University, Natural History. Now, what we actually see is rapidity. But they quote, no, that this was deposited over billions of years. And so they divide the time into the rocks, and then they say, this is at least the average time it was formed. But the actual time is, of course, in between the rocks, because we see indications that they were all formed rapidly. They're interpolating missing bits of information into a literal tale of rapid change. I think I just rather take it literally, just the facts as they are, without imposing the philosophy upon it. And imposing such a philosophy is what's necessary in order to come out whole. That's not the literal story. That's the imagined scenario that's imposed on the actual facts. One indication of great age is often argued from the formations that we see in the caves. We're told that the speleotherms, the stalactites, I've heard of those, the stalagmites take thousands of years. The statement in one of the geology textbooks from which I was taught say it takes 100,000 years to form 1 cubic inch. Now that's an absurd statement, and most geologists know better. But that's what is in some of the textbooks. Why wouldn't the professor modify this? Not just as it is. Here's our textbook. We have seen these stalactites, drapery formations, and stalagmites form very, very rapidly. We've actually seen them. I was told by an individual who was a researcher with the National Speleological Society that in Indiana, near Blue Springs, at the George Rogers Clark Memorial, in the basement there were formations just like you see in caves. Now this stone that forms this memorial was quarried just 6 miles from Blue Springs Cave. And the water percolating down through the cracks in the rocks of these limestone blocks has produced formations. This is a building at that time that was built just recently, 50 years ago. Just like you find produced when the water percolates down through the cracks in the caves. There in the memorial, we found just exactly what we find in the caves. If you will notice these drapery-type formations hanging from the fixtures in the basement. We also see the stalactites and the stalagmites that were formed in a building that was at the time less than 40 years old. This building, the memorial building. In fact, there were large columns of limestone deposition that we found, 11 feet tall. 40 years old building. How long is that building supposed to be? Millions and millions? No. And there were 5 of them, like this, 11 feet tall. Now, if this can form in less than 40 years, I look around, considering that some say that the Earth is supposed to be billions of years old. Where are the huge ones? I mean, really huge ones. No, it does not take a long time to do this. It's dependent upon the concentration of minerals, the rate of flow, the ventilation. A number of factors control it. But when the factors are right, they form very, very rapidly. So we can summarize the geological phenomena and the evidence regarding the age of the Earth this way. We look at the fossils. We see their detail. They are polystrate, that is, many strata, up like the trees, through many of the layers, prove that these layers could not form slowly. We see merging flow structures interconnected over large expanses. They cannot form slowly or gradually. We see the ripple marks in all kinds of rocks, all ages of rocks. The most common formation indicates a rapid formation. We see bedded layers, many of them extending for thousands of miles. The Glen Rose limestone begins up in Oklahoma and extends halfway down through Mexico, thousands of miles. And that's not unusual. We're looking at a global phenomenon that calls for a global catastrophic phenomenon. How about worldwide flood? That would deposit huge layers of rock, and a catastrophic flood would do precisely that, as I just said. We see interbedded periods that are supposed to be 200 million years apart that cannot be, according to the textbooks. We see the rapid coal and oil formed through experimentation. We see the speleotherms that form large structures in just tens of years. Remember that building that was only 40 years old. The phenomenon, more than one, are all rapid. Whatever you're looking at looks young. Compare a reference from Dr. Patton's notes, which indicates that according to anti-creationists, these people here, all point to a young Earth. Water from volcanoes, uranium accumulation, meteoric dust in strata, helium in atmosphere, pressure in oil reserves, meteorites in strata, lava from volcanoes, human population, radiocarbon in the atmosphere. This happened suddenly, not over years and years. Now we have another point. After looking at all this, reviewing this, sedimentary strata, therefore, cannot be explained by uniformitarianism. Most of the sedimentary rocks are the Earth's crust, which are the ones containing fossil remains, and which therefore provide the chief basis of geologic interpretation of Earth history, have been laid down as sediments by moving water. Some have apparently been formed by wind, glaciers, or other agencies, but by far the largest part of sedimentary rocks are aqueous, water in origin. It is even possible that many metamorphic rocks, including granitized rocks, ordinarily classed as igneous, were originally sedimentaries. Because if you got enough water, 64 pounds, I think, per cubic foot, on top miles, on top of the bottom of big, huge bodies of water that sees tsunamis crashing into each other, depositing stuff at the bottom, miles high water, that's instant rock. Could be granite. Hard enough pressure. Sedimentary rocks have been formed through a process of erosion, transportation, deposition, and lithification, the forming of stone through tremendous pressure of sediments. That's what we're looking at here. The deposition occurs, of course, when the running water containing the sediments enters a quiescent or quiet or less rapidly moving body of water, the lower velocity resulting in a dropping out of part or of all of its loads of moving sediments. And what happens when you have two huge waves crashing into each other? They stop. Sediment comes crashing down, gets to the bottom, huge pressure, rocks instantly form. So, if the sediment happens to contain organic remains,